Hey guys, so sorry that we're late. That's not usually us. We like to be bang on time, but we were having some tech issues and we were hoping to have the three of us with you. However, that doesn't seem to be possible tonight based on some tech issues that we have been having. So, first and foremost, I want to welcome you all to Whole Medium Academy. If you've not visited with us before, um, it's our school. It's where we teach. I do try to keep it separate from my webinars and my teachings. So we have a Whole Medium Academy community. That's the way that I like to think about it. And tonight we were hoping for the three main instructors, which is Nancy, Scheel. You guys have seen us live before, but for some reason we couldn't get Nancy and Sharon, who's also our co-teacher, Sharon Jones. For some reason we couldn't get the three of us on air, so I jumped in on this way, and um, they will add to the chat. So the idea about tonight is to talk about, is it a sign or an imagination? But before we do, this was not planned, and I may get a little spanking after, a little hand spanking after, but this was not planned. But I wanted to talk about a little bit about what has uh, been going on recently in not only our country but every country within the world. And it's been a hard time for everybody. I don't think I have a client that has been untouched by something really, really intense and difficult. And therefore, I want to remind each and every one of you that you have support. You have support from the spirit world. And I want you to put your questions, any questions that you have, in that chat box there, okay? So we can see them and answer them. But you have support from the spirit world, not only your loved ones, but from your guides as well. And it's really important to not forget about your guides, because your guides are going to be objective. And so, how do we know? How do we know when we're getting signs? And let's face it, this grouping right here, right now, as we're together, right? We are sharing a belief and a hope and sense of comfort for one another. That's how we like to view, our classes and any kind of going live or get together, shall we say. That it's a community of support for one another, supporting each person as they are, not trying to change them, but support them as they are. And so your loved ones in the spirit world are their true selves, shall we say, right? They're not what happened to them in life here. They're not their transition. As a matter of fact, a lot of them like to remind me that they had so much more than their transition. And they want their family members to oftentimes forget about their transition, but move forward with how all the things that they offered in this lifetime, everything that they had to offer, who they are as the full being. Now, notice that I say who they are, because we haven't died, we've just transitioned. So who they are as a core individual, as you know them to be and knew them to be here in the physical world, they're still that same way. And so, what they like to do once they're in the spirit world is they want you to know that regardless, hear me please, regardless of how they have transitioned, they are not only loved unconditionally, but they're doing well, they're sending signs, and they're helping you recover, adjust, get through their grief. That is what they're doing a lot of times in the spirit world, amongst other things. There's a lot of play going on in the spirit world, admittedly. They have a really good time there in the spirit world. So I'm going to say to you all, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. If you have a question about, was this a sign or was this my imagination? Was I wanting it to be just me making this up? And it can be tricky sometimes, right? Especially until you get to know how it really works, which is this is where like our foundations class comes in. I'm not, if anybody's putting anything in chat, I'm not seeing it, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll show up as it needs to. A lot of technology weirdness in the last few days, right? So put it this way. Um, you know, if you're having a moment where you are missing your loved one, we all miss them. And what we do miss is the tangibility of them, the physical body, you know, the ability to touch and come together. That's what we miss. We miss their jokes, we miss their funny little dances, we miss all kinds of things, right, around them. They're still doing those kinds of things in the spirit world, but um they're also sharing signs with you and helping you get through their grief, the grief of them not being here anymore. Now, think about that for a moment. I mean, that's quite something, right? They are helping you get through their transition. Why? Because they are doing well in the spirit world. They're loved as they are. They're surrounded by guides, they're surrounded by loved ones, and therefore they have the support they need. Now they can add that support to you. Now, you may just see that in the attendance here that Sharon Jones is our co-teacher in Foundations for Mediumship, which is where we talk about signs and learning how to connect more deeply, with people in the spirit world. But also, it says Amy Utsman, medium and psychic, and then hi everyone, Nancy here. Well, I think most of you may know Nancy, but Nancy is my spouse and co-founder. So between the three of us, we help you in the foundations class. We help you go from, I think it's my imagination, or I'm not sure, or I don't know. It can't be, to making intentional connections and understanding how the skill set of connecting with your loved ones work. Because guess what? Your loved ones want to hear from you as much as you want to hear from them. Now, the challenge becomes in communication style, right? I am a very visual person. So when somebody's describing something to me, I can see it in my mind's eye. So I'm very visual. All right. I have a family member that's very analytical. And so what may happen is if your loved one is analytical in thinking and maybe not as visual, right? But you're visual, your loved one is giving you signs, and then it a little miscommunication occurs. So remember, your loved ones, they're going to communicate from their point of view. Their point of view. They're still people. They want to be remembered as people. And it's important that we treat them as the smart individuals that they are. If they had any kind of mental challenges or physical challenges while here, they don't have that now in the spirit world. Therefore, they are the intelligent individuals that you always thought that could be in there. So I see some questions coming in now. So let's look at these questions. And I can, when I go to answer these questions, I can only go and go from my point of view, okay, from my understanding. And I, I can't believe it that it's been this long already, because it feels like this amount of time. But I've been doing readings since 2008, so I have a lot to pull from, okay. And so let's look at these questions. All right. Is reincarnation real? This is from Pippa. And does this mean our loved one has moved on from the spirit world and can no longer send us signals if they have reincarnated? Okay, so Pippa, first, thanks for asking the question. It's a very common question, and I will say this: in certain religions around the world, they believe that reincarnation happens immediately, and some religions believe that reincarnation doesn't happen at all. My understanding, and this is coming from years of people in the spirit world sharing their information. So it's really, again, this is coming from people in the spirit world sharing that, oh, I'm not in a rush to come back, right? So would you be in a rush to come back? Maybe not. I mean, it's kind of a busy class. So you may not be in a rush to come back to this physical world. But also, from my guides, because I sit and ask my guides these questions. So, in my understanding, reincarnation is real. That being said, my understanding is that we reincarnate as a group, which means that we're going to the space of, as far as my understanding goes, to the great grandparent level or the great great grandparent level, and then people may start to reincarnate. Now, is it a one size fits all? No, it isn't, because everybody has their uniqueness. And with anything in life, of course, there's not a one size fits all, right? So I hope that, and then let's see, since Pippa, um, depending on your loved one, but my sense is you're receiving actually a lot of signs that, but you are unsure because of, the reincarnation aspect. So if you could let us know, if that answered your question, that would be really fabulous, if that answered that question for you. Okay, so I hope so. Now I'm going to go to Laura, and let's see, you felt, let me see. Okay, Laura says, I felt my son shared his many emotions of his transition and why he passed with me for the first 3 weeks after passing. Is it possible I was experiencing a shared death experience? Well, Laura, it's an interesting thing, because I'm going to say it this way. Um, and Sharon can dive in on this one as well. Sharon, again, Sharon Jones, answering anything in here again is our co-teacher in this class. So we just had some weird tech. We couldn't get us all three on board. But so Laura, my question to you would be, I'm just reading your question and make sure I have it right. So a shared death experience is literally the moment of transition. As a person is transitioning, you're feeling what I call the bigness and the greatness of this, because I had one and I didn't know what it was until years later, but it it's extraordinary. So what I'm going to say to you, Laura, a lot of times what happens is um, that people in the spirit world, right off the bat, they tend, in my understanding, they tend to be very close. And I do want Sharon to jump in on this when I'm done talking, but they tend to be very close to us. And as they're close to us, it's as though they're saying their own form of a goodbye, like from here. And you get a lot of signs. They're trying to comfort you, they're trying to keep you together. So many people have that feel, that need, that want to join the person who has just transitioned. That is a very normal feeling, but it is not an ideal outcome, right? You still have your path to live and continue on until it's time for your transition, because we all have our own lesson. But yeah, so it's not uncommon, Laura, for people very early after they've transitioned to share strong, powerful signs that they're visceral, and then maybe it's getting a little quiet for you. I don't know if that's what is occurring, but again, a shared death experience, in my understanding, is, maybe Sharon can jump in, is usually the literal transition itself. Now, what your son may be doing, which could be very hard and a beautiful thing at the same time, is that, sharing everything that he's gone through, you know, um, since he transitioned. So he might have been at that time sharing all of that information for you. But um, Sharon is answering in as well. Okay, so all right, so we see that Sharon has answered that. And I really would like it, Laura, if that helps you, to if that helps you at all, like, if our answers helped you at all, because we really like to know these things. We want to answer. Yes, very strong emotional signs and visions. Some, unfortunately, some bad. I think sometimes when there's a so-called bad vision, it's a mixture of our conscious mind blending with a sign. That is my feelings and philosophies and on what happens if it's a bad vision or sign. Okay, so because we hurt, so I think it gets a little mixed in there. um and if Sharon wants to add something to that, she can. um I'm so sorry, Laura. So sorry for and maybe Nancy, which has my name there, but maybe Nancy can put in helping parents heal for Laura, if you're not a part of that, or for anybody else here that might need it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next question. VO. I understand my mom's communication style very well, but I haven't seemed to notice any signs 7 months later. Do people ever not send signs at all after passing? So, VO, this is an interesting question, and in general, I will say 99.9% of the time they're sending you signs. I will say that I actually have a loved one that transitioned when I was 9, and I was very close with him, and I've never, ever, ever had a connection with him. Never, never. And I won't say how many years old I am. So I've never had a connection with him. But in your case, my sense about your mother's communication is, again, it's not unusual for it to be very strong early, and then 7 months later is actually not very long at all, right? I mean, that first whole year thing, mm, it's a made up year thing, or um, but a year is nothing. What may be happening, VO, here with your mom, and this is my sense that's going on here, is that your mom may be giving you different signs. Maybe she's giving you different signs than what she was previously. So put it this way. Um, seem to notice. Oh, maybe not notice 7 months later. Yeah. Okay. So my sense of what is happening here is that, and this is not necessarily too uncommon in my opinion, but now that you know this sign is for me, let me give you a different one. And then what happens with you is you're thinking, that your mom is not giving you signs. So what your mom is trying to do is build that very strong bridge with you by changing up those signs. Um that is why your mom may be shifting things here. So I'm going to encourage you to say to your mom, hey, how come uh I'm not noticing any signs, or will you please give me some signs in a way that I completely understand as directly from you? That might help you break that barrier, if you will. So, if that helps, VO. And I feel like I don't know. Will do. Okay. And Sharon might have something to add in here as well. Um, of maybe a different way of looking at this, VO. Am I saying it the right person? I'm so bad with names, you guys. I'm really sorry if I called you the wrong name. VO, yeah. So maybe Sharon has some suggestions that she can type in there for you as well. Okay. But listen, here's what I want to say about signs, that a lot of times there's so much emphasis on what a sign should be, how it could be, but you know, well, I don't get a cardinal, but you get a cardinal, or I've never had a visit dream, but you've had a visit dream. You know, it becomes almost a comparison thought to how it's almost like we're comparing, like, well, you got this sign, but I didn't, so there must be something wrong with me, right? I mean, I have a feeling that some of you will relate to that, right? Well, you know, but remember, your loved ones are still the individuals that they were while they were here. It's just that they don't have the physical body and ailments and any other baggage to carry along with them, right? They're whole, they're taken care of, they're loved as they are, they're with other family members if they wish to be. And so when you think of what a sign could be or may be, one of the things that you can do first is because we have a tendency to rationalize these away easily. Nancy and I, we're very skeptical in this household too. So we will, have to, like, it has to be really good for it to be a sign. So a lot of us rationalize signs away. Oh no, that was just my imagination, or oh no, for some reason that memory just came into mind. Or you're expecting it to be a certain way than it was based on books you've read, maybe videos you've watched, things that you know other people's experience. So think about it this way. First off, I know that we all want to hear from our loved ones so badly after they transition. First off, we don't want them to transition, but at the same time, um, when they do, we still want them here, right? And then some of us are thinking, well, can it really be real that they're still continuing on? And all I want to know is that they're okay. So I'm going to touch on this last one first. Number one, they are okay. Let me tell you, they have it way better in the spirit world than we do here. So that's number one. But number two, please don't get into a competition of, well, they get this sign, and I have never seen a sign like that before. Think about your loved one and how they have communicated or have not communicated while they are here. What if they're really, really quiet kind of individual? So ask them to give you a sign again in a way that you will understand it's from them. Now, if you get a sign and you're not sure who it's from, make sure to ask, who was that sign from? And I always do like to add that, make sure we thank them, because they've put a lot of effort into getting that sign to you at that moment. Maybe you get pulled into a certain, like, you just want to look that way for a reason, and you see your loved one's name or something associated with them, right? Oh, well, that's why you got pulled that way. That's a sign. That's a sign. It's not your imagination. All right. It's not you just making it up. But on occasion, we can unconsciously or subconsciously, sorry for that, but subconsciously, we can inadvertently block signs. And we don't want to do this, but let's face it, some transitions um, are very, very tragic, traumatic, and difficult. So, and everyone's passing. I sense just about everyone's passing, whether we expected it, didn't expect it, traumatic due to illness, age, right? I mean, how long can we really expect them to be here, right? So all of these things come into play, and so when somebody transitions, even if we're ready for it, even if we see it coming, we're still going to be perhaps a little bit in shock or closed off. And we do that as a sense of protection for not taking on another hurt, right? I mean, we can only handle so many things at a time. And some transitions are harder than others. That doesn't mean that the person was more important or anything, but some are just more difficult than others. And therefore, we may put up a strong block, or we may be in that place of shock where it's not real yet. That place of shock is a very surreal world. And then we may go looking all over the internet and reading books and all kinds of things. And then you start looking for, well, now I should be getting signs because I need to hear from my loved one. But um, if you're expecting it to be a certain way, you may be actually missing out signs that come in the way that they are able to do them. So, and I see Sharon is typing in there as well. So, so make sure you read Sharon's comments if you don't mind. But the expectation that a sign has to be a certain way. For example, some people are really, really good at this. I don't know how they do it, but some people are really good at this, where they say, to know this is real, I want you to put a quarter here tomorrow on the table. So when I get up in the morning, I find it. And sure enough, they get up and there's a quarter right there. I have tried that so many times, never ever works for me. Okay. So, and I don't know I don't know why, but it just doesn't. So we're not all the same. Signs will not all be the same. And I really want people to really get to the place of understanding that you're not making it up for the sake of making it up. If something just drops in, and you're thinking about something completely different, and boop, something just drops in. And at that moment, you can't go, what was I thinking of that memory would pop in? That's your loved one giving you a sign. Okay. That's your loved one giving you a sign. What if you're home alone and you feel like somebody's there, but you go, "Ah, no, that's just my imagination playing tricks on me." We're so good at that. But what's happening is our loved ones are there with us because they don't want us to feel alone, or they just want to visit with you. Maybe they just want to visit with you as much as you want to hear from them, right? So it's a very, very different style of communicating. It usually comes, it can be subtle, or it can be a little bit intense, if you will. I mean, people feeling their spouse is still laying next to them, right? That happens. That happens. I get those stories in readings where that happens. What a wonderful thing to happen and have that. So try to not dismiss it. Try to not dismiss it. This is why, this is exactly why when we are well, this is how the foundations class came about. The foundations for mediumship class came about because you have to understand the very basics, the foundation, how that, and then from there you can build onto any single avenue. And when I'm talking about foundations, look, not everybody has to be a medium. Not everybody has to be born a medium to become a professional medium, or just be able to have a strong connection to that of the spirit world. And when people come into foundations class, um most people are coming to learn how to connect with their own loved ones. So what do we teach in there? We teach about the skill set behind what it is. And we all have this skill set, and every single one of us. I don't care. I'm going to put that challenge out to you. I don't care how logical and analytical you are. You have intuition. You have intuition. And I put that challenge out to you because people discover it in the foundations class, because we speak to all sides of individuals. And the idea here along in this class is not only to talk about the senses. When we're talking about seeing, when you hear a medium say, oh, they're my clairvoyance, or I'm seeing this, it's in the mind's eye. It may look like a picture, or just something tiny small, right? Or it may be a full long, well, I don't like the word visions because I don't like to sound too woo woo. Okay, but it may look like a little video. Okay, so a vision. All right. um at the same way, at the same time, when you hear mediums say, oh, they're telling me this, a lot of times what you're hearing is your own voice, except for it's not your words. So, people in the spirit world, if you're expecting to hear your loved one out loud in their voice, that's a very high expectation and a rare occurrence, just to be clear. Doesn't mean that they won't call your name at times and such. Just to be clear, okay? But more common, the way it works is that your loved one is talking to you, giving you what we call a little drop-in message. Maybe it's their name, maybe it's a song, that they liked. Maybe it's just add a little more pepper, like while you're cooking. If they happen to be a good cook, right? It's just there, but it's going to sound like your voice, but it's going to happen way too fast for you to imagine it. That is the key. It's going to happen way too fast. There's no way that you could have thought it that quick, because it's boom right there. You may just know. You may not understand how you know something. You cannot try to rationalize, but a part of you will just know. And that's called claircognizance. It's that knowing feeling. A lot of people use that. Well, I just had a gut feeling. There was just a sense. There wasn't anything obvious, but I just knew it was off. Things like this. So those kinds of statements often come from claircognizance, right? And then you've got the feeling, right? Where you might just get goosebumps. You might feel somebody's around you. You know, Sometimes you might get an occasional little touch. Ooh, it's so nice. When your loved one wants to give you a touch, maybe the air, all of a sudden it gets very cool or very hot for a moment. And I'm not talking about hormones, ladies. Sorry, guys. I'm not talking about hormones there. But maybe you just get really hot or you're really cold for a moment and you can't explain it, right? I call these little, these like spirit touches and spirit hugs. And if you look, Sharon is putting in the definitions of what we call the clairs, which are our natural senses, but they are um, they are used in mediumship. So what we teach is how to use those natural senses to bridge a stronger connection between you and your loved ones in the spirit world. That's what we're teaching you. And once you have those, well, then there is no limit to what you can do. Okay, so it's not, and we don't practice with anybody, so there's no pressure. This is for you. That this class is specifically for you. I want to look at some of these comments because I think somebody put in, I see hearts in food, and once I saw an oil stain heart when I was walking in the parking lot. I believe my son is sending them to me. Lily Q, right, Lily? I would have no doubt, because if you feel that this is from so and so, please don't question it, because you could have been feeling that from thinking, well, maybe my grandmother is all of a sudden sending me hearts, but not in this case. Okay, I believe, I feel, you know, that feeling, that's your son saying, this is how we're connecting. And what a lovely thing that he's doing, sending you hearts. So sweet. He probably doesn't like me to say so sweet, probably wants to be a little more macho, but I think that is extremely sweet that he is sending hearts to you. So um okay. All right. So I don't know if we have any more questions, because, like, are you guys tired of me talking? Like, honestly, I just wonder sometimes if people get tired of me talking. But do you have any other questions to ask? I'll give you a second there just to, or experiences to share. But I'm gonna say that clearly, clearly you get to see my excitement um, about mediumship and bridging that connection. It never, never, ever gets old. The only thing that happens is it develops and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And this can happen with you too. This can happen with you too. We've had students in our foundations class who thought, "Oh, there's no way ever I could get this." Now there, a couple of them actually who never set out to work as professional mediums, and then we have some people that take the class just to keep strengthening for themselves. There's no reason and no limitation once you start to believe that, oh my, wait a minute, when you make that intentional connection, hold on. Whoa. Once you start to understand how the pieces come together, there's no limitation. And therefore, you can bridge with all of your family members in the spirit world, even the ones you never met while you were here. So I'm going to leave you guys with that because I don't see any other questions and comments. But I want to thank you all so much for joining. And unfortunately, I asked your dad to sign one of the videos. And oh my gosh, Pippa. Okay, everybody has to read Pippa's comment there. And it's a great way for us to end. But wow, that, see, so um anything is possible. And this brings up a great point with Pippa. It was like 35 years ago and having no memory and then getting a sign. um Time doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter how long they have transitioned. Again, I tend to go up to the great grandparent level of when people start to reincarnate. That's my sense, my understanding, but I'm not an expert on this. But with this, I'm going to say we hope to see some of you in the foundations class. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining. And I'm so a little bummed that we don't have Sharon and Nancy next to me on video, but they have here, fully here in spirit. And thank each and every one of you so much for joining. Ask for the signs, be open, don't set expectations, and if it feels like it's a sign, it probably is. If you're unsure, just say, was that a sign? Yes or no. And go with the answer you receive. In the meantime, take really good care of yourselves and look forward to talking to you guys again. All right, everybody. Have a great evening.